G'day boys and girls, Duckville here. I have a Terran versus Zerg today for you. It should be a really interesting one given some of the recent developments in one of our players' particular styles. We'll talk about that in just a second. Up at the top of Polar Night here is our Terran player, Red Terran here, playing for Clarity Gaming. It is Elhaym. He's on one of his other accounts, I guess, just to play around with some things or just ladder in peace, considering the appear offline mode is still not being made available. I don't know what's up with that. He's a really good Terran player from Canada, as I mentioned, playing for Clarity Gaming. Has really good multitasking and particularly micro. I do love watching his stream. Has a really high quality stream, so make sure you jump on and watch one of the few high level Terran players that are streaming in the NA time zone generally. I know there are a few Terrans over in EU as well, but in NA, there's only a few. There's only like Igers and Elhaym and Intense and a couple of other like high-level Terran players that stream these days, which is a little bit weird. I also noticed there's very few Terran replay packs, which is partly why these days you won't see me sort of casting too much Terran stuff, because it's just not as easily available. So unfortunately, a small side effect of recent endeavors, but hopefully with the patch to Widow Mines and other things like that, Terran players will be able to get out more and get some more games up, but we'll see how Elhaym goes here today. His opponent down on the bottom side of Polar Night, a local here from Australia. It is Exile 5, PiG. And PiG, of course, is a very good Zerg player. He's just probably one of the best players down here in the C region at the moment, if not the best. I'm just going to throw that out there. Has a wonderful stream himself. Of course, due to Australian internet, it's perhaps not as awesome quality in terms of the visual quality as Mr. Elhaym from Canada, but he definitely has a great stream in regards to learning and teaching. He often is streaming a lot of the lessons that he does, the coaching lessons that he does for Zerg players, and just generally while laddering also likes to commentate a lot. So make sure you do go and check out both of these players in their respective streams. Go say hello to them on Twitter. I have posted both of those for you as well. And as I mentioned, PiG has had a bit of an epiphany lately. You can have a look over on Team Liquid or over on sc2c.com at one of PiG's blogs, where he's detailed an interesting style that he has started to utilize in this particular matchup that he seems to think is pretty much ridiculously imbalanced. Now, it does involve swarm hosts, so I am going to put that out there. I know some of you are probably just groaning and saying, oh my god, did we have to click on this YouTube link? But it's apparently very interesting, and I guess it's something which few players have wanted to try and have a look at, given the volatility of using swarm hosts in this matchup. Generally, when a Terran player, unless they're playing mech, when a Terran player is going bio, using swarm hosts can be a bad idea, just tending towards the fact that your bio units can be very mobile and can be very threatening to a Zerg player because you've got drops all over the place. And so we'll see what PiG's going to do about that. I'm not going to go into it too much. I do know the style, and I did read through his blog, and I have had a little go of it myself, obviously at a much lower kind of level of play, but regardless, it is a really interesting thing which we'll be looking at. So we're going to grab both of our gases here at the 5:15 mark. Meanwhile, Elhaym has to deal with some lings that have made their way around the map just to pick off this SCV that is building the CC down on the low ground. We've got a factory and a racks, of course, are all complete. Third CC is on the way. This Overlord is very key here. You have to always keep an eye on what the Terran is up to, and PiG's got all that information here. He has gathered that there is that CC. We can see the reactor on the factory, and now we can also see the third base as well, so we know that the Terran is going to go for a much more economic-based play here. So you don't need to be worried about some kind of two-base, marine mine, big push at sort of that 9-minute mark, which can be something which can come along and be very annoying. All you need to do get those drones out. As we can see, PiG just hitting the SD button quite a lot, getting 7 drones out right now. We've already got 33 out of the map, so he's going to be jumping up to a nice economy very soon. All he'll have to worry about is a small little poke here and there with these Hellions and a couple of Reapers that are also there as well. But as long as we spread the creep out, if we set up just a small wall, you don't have to fully wall it off. Of course, I've seen some people fully wall off, and it's kind of like, well, you don't need to do that. Unless you suspect there is a big blue flame Hellion attack coming, you don't really need to go all the way there. But we can see back at home that Elhaym definitely is going bio. We've got 3 racks here. The factory just switching over. We'll probably see that drop down a tech lab, I'm assuming. Oh, reactor. Alright, so he's going to go reactor. He's going to jump up to 2 racks with reactors and 1 with the tech lab stim on the way. And we'll probably start to see a few Widow Mines as well. But also, we'll look towards that medevac tech as these guys out on the map, the Hellions and the Reapers, are still just going to push around. They're very fast units, looking to pick off a few lings here and there, maybe a creep trimmer if they can. But also just trying to maintain the map dominance for the moment, as PiG he doesn't have ling speed at all. He's actually just neglected that for the moment, opting to go for a little bit higher tech, going for those roaches, getting out +1 on missile and carapace here, so that we do have these roaches available to deal with the Hellions and the Reapers as well. It also means that we will be looking towards a possible roach Hydra based timing, and now this is kind of where PiG has based this kind of play on, is getting up the 2-2 on roaches and hydras and then transferring over to a different kind of tech. So we'll see how he's going to maneuver that, how we're going to deal with the pros and cons of Swarm Host play once we get to that when dealing with bio. So normally what you'll see here is when the Terran scouts out, we've got a lot of roaches. We've got we've got the Evo chambers pumping. It's most likely going to be a missile-based unit attack, such as those roaches and the hydras. So Elhaym's going to have to deal with that in his own respective way. Going to grab a couple of bunkers at the front door. We'll need a few marauders out as well, as they do that extra damage against armored targets. The 5th racks is on the way. The eBays are also pumping their 1-1, around about a third of the way done at the moment. But Elhaym can see lots of roaches now bursting their way up through the map. Now PiG's going to look to try and get some damage done here, but the preparation for Elhaym is pretty damn good. We've got a couple of bunkers nicely spaced out so that you can get a really good field of fire across this area here, but also, so that you can get enough SCVs to protect the bunkers. But as you can see, PiG's just going to march forward, sell, and evacuate there, says Elhaym. He's not going to have any of that. The PiG is going to take out a supply depot. Not getting too greedy. We're going to take maybe another... We could probably get 1 more supply depot here. Is he going to get it? No, it looks like with the SCVs repairing that, he's going to be able to back off. Does he know? Ooh, the 3rd has somehow snuck its way past this Overlord and has set up there. But Elhaym going to move forward, going to try and trade some units here, losing a roach or 2, but getting a few Marines and Marauders in the process. We've got Hydralisk Den all the way. 2-2 is now being researched, and the 3rd base for PiG is also up and running. Now the economy is going to be a little bit different here than what you would normally see. What you would normally get in in your standard kind of Zerg versus Terran, especially when it's Zerg versus Bio Terran style, is that the Zerg will be, they'll be up to their 3rd base. They'll be starting up their droning by now. But PiG is going to make sure all of the bases are covered, literally and I guess figuratively speaking, with those roaches out, good upgrades, the possibility for a big timing push here to take out the Terran player with the roaches and the hydras. But we're also going to make sure that the economy is in a good position. With 65 drones now out, we're looking pretty good right now. The creep spread is continuing to push across here. It is really key, I found, when playing a little bit of Zerg myself against the Terran on this map, to get the creep trimmers to this sort of position. If you can get them at least to here, so that you can cover this area with creep spread, when a Terran tries to push up just sort of towards this direction here, and they look to, grab the Zelnaga Watchtower and then either push in these directions, you need them to be able to just camp there for a minute while you can get into a spot where you can come in from both sides and attack them. So it's really key to especially have the creep up in this position here as a Zerg play. You want to be able to snipe down as many of these units as you can. And speaking of sniping, the roaches, no fear, just marching forwards and taking out the tank that was there. But now Elhaym going to drop inside the main base. Pig a little bit exposed here. There's no real Hydras out just yet. Just a couple inside the main base. 4 are there. Will they be able to take out those medevacs? It looks like they'll get a few of the units, but also lose most of the Hydras that are there. But the medevacs will escape for now. But just a small period where Pig is just a tiny bit exposed here once he's trying to get up the forces to protect against drops. As we mentioned earlier on, one thing about playing a Swarm Host style is that you are susceptible to drops because of the way that Bio functions. It's a very, very, very fast, a very mobile strategy, where a Terran player, especially on this map, is going to be looking to drop inside all of these areas here. They'll look to come in from the sides, from the front, even up in the corners here, and then that's not even counting these kinds of areas over here, which are quite susceptible to drops as well. So the Swarm Hosts, of course, are very slow units, and what you want to be able to do to deal with that is have just small groups of Hydras, possibly, you know, 3 to 4 Hydras. Think of it like you would in a Zerg versus Protoss match, where realistically, if you're going for a Swarm Host style, you can't have all the Swarm Hosts. You need to have a few Hydras and some static defense at your bases to protect against Warp Prisms and the you know, DTs and Zealot drops that can come with it. We've got the same sort of principle here, as you can see. Pig camping out with a few Hydras. You don't need a huge amount, just a few, and this is going to try and deter Elhaym from dropping. While we prepare the Hive Tech, we're going to go for, of course, some Vipers will be thrown in the mix as well. If that, that medevac very daring, trying to just run over the top of the base there. But as we can see, just small clusters of units around the place. We do need to make sure creep spread is down here as well to make sure that Pig can sort of just traverse between the bases, but there is some more static defense as well. Spore crawlers on the edge to make sure that you are shooting down medevacs as they come through, but also some spine crawlers in the mix just to try and poke down those units, or at least buy time. So as we can see, for Elhaym's side of the map, he's got a couple of tanks now starting to pop out. It's a little bit of a switchover from what you would normally see in this matchup. Normally, you'd have up to, you know, like, possibly up to about 12 or 13 Widow Mines out and about by now. But because of the interesting style that Elhaym has to deal with, it's a little bit more difficult to utilize the Widow Mines. They get smashed apart by Hydras. They don't do too much damage to Roaches. Of course, they do a nice amount, but they don't do a huge amount of damage to those Roaches, so you have to try and just adapt to deal with that. So we do have a second factory out right now, which is going to help with the tank production. And this is like, it's really interesting to watch just a development of a style here, as you can see, because it means that Elhaym has to adapt to what Pig is playing, and Pig's playing initially, right now, it's a very, very old school kind of strategy. The old Roach 2-2 and Hydra 2-2 was something that was used quite a lot, especially when Widow Mines was still being figured out, when Zerg were having a really hard time with Bio, against the Widow Mine Marine style, and we couldn't really do much with Lings and Banes, and had to figure out a way how to deal with that. This is what you got to see a lot. Roaches and Hydras with 2-2 just pushing, trying to time it out to kill off the Terran third base and then just kill them in, you know, in completion. So it's something which you do. It is interesting to see time and time again that people will go back to old styles, but Pig has now taken it a step further. We've got Vipers out, we've got Infestors out of the field. These Marines are probably going to get a little bit of damage done, but not a huge amount. They should probably look to try and kill off one of these Vipers, but it looks like the Vipers will dance out of there for now. Elhaym will be able to escape for now. Infestor not in range. I was looking for the fungal there, but it wasn't going to come. Just slightly out of range here. If Elhaym can grab one of the Vipers, no, unfortunately not. The fungal growth locks down the units, and as you can see, the medevac count for Elhaym is just continuing to spiral down. We have one medevac out on the map, and how often do you get to see something like that? So he's going to have to get the tanks together. As you can see, we've got a whole bunch of tanks. We want to make sure these guys are spread. You cannot let those fungals or blinding cloud hit those tanks, because then you'll be in a lot of trouble. And we'll have to see what Elhaym's going to do here, because there is still a lot of creep spread. And this is what I was talking about. If the Zerg can try and engage these positions up on the high ground here, that's really good. Instead of engaging to this position here, if the Terran can get it to this spot, it becomes very hard to actually push into that because of the high ground advantage, and of course because of the fact that you clump up when you tend to head towards this position. So Elhaym's going to move forwards. We'll probably hope to see those tanks split apart a bit. There they go. They're splitting up a little bit. The Vipers just full of energy right now. A few of the Swarm Hosts are also here, keep in mind as well. But here we go. 1, 2, 3 on the blinding clouds. Will we see another one down the back? It looks like a no. We're not unsieging the tanks at the moment, but so it looks like some of the tanks will get shot down, but they're still in position. If they get to fire off a few volleys, they should be able to deal with a lot of the Hydras, and they do splash through quite a lot of the Zerg forces there, and PiG is going to have to switch over some of his supply. We've now got 9 swarm hosts on the way, 7 Hydras, and Elhaym is continuing to push his position. Now, this would be interesting if PiG can keep this base. That'll put him in a really, really good spot. A 4-base Zerg using swarm hosts against a sort of a mix-up of composition, a very armor penetrating base composition from the Terran player. If PiG can hold it, he'll be pretty happy with that, but he loses the hatchery. It's not the end of the world at all. I mean, when you're using the free units that come from these swarm hosts, of course those locusts are free and always reappearing every now and then. If it can just keep the swarm hosts alive, there's no real way that the Terran can push into this spot. So Elhaym's got to, what happens now is we're either going to see Elhaym boost up the tank count, or we're going to see him try and re-engage with drops and stuff like that. In fact, I think we just missed one of the drops, sorry about that. But Elhaym's now starting to struggle just a little bit. We're starting to lose some of the mining in the natural base, and the main, of course, is starting to get mined out. We have boosted up the medevac count just a little bit, trying to clear out some of this creep spread as well, just to make sure that the Zerg player is not freely able to move about the map. But PiG is going to be pretty comfortable right now. We've got a lot of swarm hosts out. We've got infestors here. There is a Widowmine. Oh wow, this guy's going to get a decent amount of damage done if he can get a shot off. Is he going to? He just attacked his own. There you go. There you go. I was going to say, I'm sure PiG would have seen that. I'm not exactly sure what just happened, but did eventually kill the mine in the end. It did get a shot off and kill a couple of units though, but as you can see, Elhaym continuing to bust out a lot of units here, sending over one of the orbital commands from the main base to try and set up a 4th base, or possibly a 5th over here, as his 4th is being disrupted across on the right-hand side. But PiG, now moving into position, has 16 swarm hosts that are now starting to move forwards, yanking a tank or 2. Will we grab a 3rd? It looks like we will. There is another tank down towards the back, and this is just beautiful stuff here from PiG, and this is what we were talking about. When you sort of get to this composition, you've just got to be careful of these drops, and with some static defense here, PiG should be reasonably okay. He will need to send some units back to deal with these Marines and Marauders. They do have their 3-3 on their armor and weapons, but I mean, that's going to be reasonably easily cleaned up by just a couple of these, the spores and the spines that are there, leaving a few Hydras to make sure that this is all protected, and now things are starting to look very good now for PiG. He's restricted his opponent, cannot set down a 4th base, may want to look to try and take the base at the backside, but it's all going to get very, very painful from now. The slow death of 1,000, what is it? 1,000 pokes or something like that? I can't remember how that saying goes, but it is going to be something like that. I can't remember what it is. Swarm hosts now starting to push their locusts through. The Terran is slowly going to start to lose some of these units. Now, this is what you have to worry about when you're playing as a swarm host against a bio Terran, is that it's very mobile, and with good splits and keeping out of those blinding clouds, Elhaym should be able to get some really good damage done, but the swarm hosts have had enough protection. They've got another salvo of those locusts out, and as we can see, the locusts are just going to spit all over everything. It's like hanging out with a camel or something like that, because they are just all over everything now. And with PiG starting to respread this creep through the middle here as well, he's going to put all of his swarm hosts on top of creep, and that's going to give them extended range. So things are starting to look very good here, as our Zerg player is starting to take control. 177 supply to the 118 of Elhaym, and now starting to group together some of his units, but the SCVs have nowhere to mine at the moment, apart from this base over on the right-hand side. I mean, even that is probably not going to last too long. The locusts are now starting to push inside. More infestors being added in just to make sure we can throw those fungals down. As you can see, 6 infestors just at the back here. What these are for is just locking down some of these units. But there you go, a GG from Elhaym. It does look very difficult to deal with this style, as long as the Zerg is on top of those drops and trying to knock those out of the sky at the start of the game, making sure that you do get those fungal growths down, because these units are going to be very mobile. They will try and stem up and actually jump on top of your swarm hosts here, so you have to be very careful about that. But as long as you've got good control with those supporting units, the Vipers and the Infestors, this could be a very powerful style. So make sure you go and check out PiG's blog over on SC2C or Team Liquid, and you can give it a go yourself and see how it goes. Cheers. Here, as you can see, 47 damage to bio units and then the 34 damage against other standard targets. His storms have also been wonderful, just spreading them out across the battlefield, doing really, really nicely there. And for minigun, he's been sticking with a much more